Jupiter is the largest planet in our solar system. This gas giant is home to 79 moons, 4 of which are of critical scientific interest. These 4 moons were the first of many to be discovered orbiting around the planet. They were originally discovered in 1610 by Galileo Galilei when he was observing Jupiter through a telescope. He originally named them the Medicean stars, but they were later renamed to honor their discoverer. These are the Galilean Moons. Each of the moons was named after one of the lovers of Zeus. This is Callisto. It is the furthest of the 4 moons and orbits around the planet in about 17 Earth days. It is Jupiter's second largest moon at 4,620.6 kilometers and the 3rd largest in our solar system. It is thought to be made up of rock, iron, and ice with a small silicic core. The moon's surface is covered in ancient craters, believed to have been made from various impacts with comets and asteroids. There is a layer of ice on the surface of the moon that reflects more light than the Earth's moon, which makes it appear vibrant and bright, especially on the peaks of its craters. This is true for all the Galilean moons. This moon was considered to be a dead moon with little to no tectonic activity. Yet, we now believe that there may be an ocean beneath the surface. This, along with the oxygen in its atmosphere, show the moon could possibly harbor life. Ganymede is not only the largest moon of Jupiter, but it is also the largest moon in our solar system, spanning a huge 5,268.2 kilometers, which is even larger than that of Mercury. It is also the first moon to show signs that it has its own magnetic field. This magnetic field causes auroras in the sky, which create spectacles of glowing electrified gas around the north and south poles of the moon. It is the 3rd furthest Galilean moon, and it orbits around Jupiter in about 7 Earth days. Ganymede's orbit also interacts with the other 2 Galilean moons, Europa and Io, to create a tug-of-war match between the moons and Jupiter. The magnetic field is thought to come from the moon's iron core, which is surrounded by a rock shell that is also surrounded by a layer of ice. Scientists believe that there is a large saltwater ocean located between the ice and the crust, which is made up of mostly water ice itself, but is also mixed with varying concentrations of rock. It is believed that some of the rockier parts of the surface are due to collisions with other satellites, or perhaps even stacked up underneath the crust and protruding to the surface. This mix of rock and ice give the moon a very contrasting outward appearance, as parts of the sphere appear much darker than the rest. This moon also has a thin oxygen atmosphere, however, just like Castillo, not dense enough to support human life. Perhaps one of the greatest scientific interests comes from the moon known as Europa. It is the 2nd closest Galilean moon and is also the smallest. It is 3,121.6 kilometers wide, which is just over 350 meters smaller than the Earth's moon. It has an iron core with a rocky mantle. However, its magnetic field appears to be the weakest among the moons. with a water ice crust that is 15 to 25 kilometers thick. The most spectacular belief about Europa is its vast saltwater ocean, thought to be 2 to 3 times the size of Earth's oceans. Because of the water underneath Europa's crust and the tidal forces of the other moons, the surface becomes flexible, which would explain the many cracks sprawled across the moon. Also, due to the water filling in the gaps, it doesn't have any craters or mountains, making it the smoothest object in our solar system. The hydrothermal vents are also responsible for water vapor eruptions on Europa's surface, which can reach as much as 2,000 metric tons. The moon has a thin oxygen atmosphere, and because of this and the existence of its ocean, makes it the most promising location to find life outside our planet. NASA is planning to send a mission to Europa near the year 2024 in order to take high-resolution photos as well as take measurements to determine what Europa is actually made of. They are also trying to figure out how large the crust is and what it would take to drill through it. Finally, the last of the Galilean moons, and by no means the least fascinating. Io is the solar system's most volcanically active world. The moon is 3,643.2 kilometers wide, which makes it the second smallest of the Galilean moons. Io has hundreds of sulfur and magma volcanoes scattered across its surface. Some spewing lava dozens of kilometers high because of Io's gravitational tug-of-war with Ganymede in Europa. These forces create a very high level of heat on the moon, where underneath the moon's rocky crust, it keeps the subsurface molten. These volcanoes create mountains and lava lakes all over the surface of Io. It is believed that the surface is made of rock and sulfur, with the whitest parts of the moon being made up of frost made of sulfur as opposed to water. As Io erupts, the magma reshapes and texturizes the surface by filling in craters and piling up. Because of Io's molten core, it has a magnetic field of its own. But it's constantly being dominated by the magnetic field coming from Jupiter, as it is the closest moon to the gas giants. The sheer power of Jupiter's magnetic field shaves off the edge of the moon every time it orbits around the planet, which is just under 2 Earth days. This phenomenon creates a donut-shaped aurora, as the surface elements of Io disintegrate into the atmosphere.